Hello, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Annie Boychuk. On August 18, 2012 at 4:15 p.m., Saturday afternoon, my husband Brent Boychuk was exposed to carbon monoxide. He asked my 23-year-old daughter to drive him to the clinic a couple of blocks away. The first clinic was closed, the second clinic was also closed. The doctor was on holidays. He collapsed right there in front of the closed clinic doors. My daughter handed her phone to a lady passing by, asking her to call 911 as she was administering CPR on her dad. I finally got a hold of my daughter to find out the shocking news. I immediately called the hospital to have the doctor on call telephone me. He never called. Having no ambulance service in Sylvan Lake, Mountain View Ambulance was called out to assist my daughter and her dad. When I arrived at the scene, RCMP and 2 ambulances were there, but Brent was at the point of no return. He only needed pure oxygen to counteract the effects of the carbon monoxide poisoning. Pure oxygen. Heartbreaking yet thankful, Brent was the only one to perish.
Hi, my name is Susan and I'm the chair of the Urgent Care Committee for Sylvan Lake and area. I've been doing that for the past 5 years with a team of really dedicated individuals. And what we're trying to do is get an urgent care center for the area, and we've been spending our time lobbying the provincial government to have a look at that. An urgent care center is a place where you would get medical treatment for non-life-threatening injuries. It's not for things like heart attacks or motor vehicle accidents. We're talking about everyday unexpected illnesses or injuries like a broken leg, lacerations, dehydration, concussion, anything like that. And an urgent care center for us would be open 7 days a week with extended hours, observation beds, access to lab and x-ray on site, and be manned by doctors and nurses. So you would be able to walk in and get the treatment you needed at the time you needed.
My name's Sean McIntyre and I'm the mayor of the town of Sylvan Lake, and we need urgent care. So as a father and a parent of young children, we've run into several instances as a family where we would have been better served by urgent care than our current medical circumstances. And one of those instances was last spring when my daughter broke her arm on the monkey bars at school. And we ended up having to go to 6 different locations before my daughter was able to get a cast on her arm.
Kim Boyd, and I've been in Sylvan Lake for 31 years now, and the access to healthcare as it sits right now with the doctors still being on call has been relatively passable. So last summer I got an abscess tooth and ended up in the emergency ward in the hospital, which I was intubated within an hour and sent to Edmonton for emergency surgery. As it sits right now, I've got about $10,000 worth of dentist work that needs to be done now because of that abscess and the way it was handled. So if we would have had actually on call or access to weekend facilities, it would have been cut in the bud and would have been a lot simpler, and I wouldn't have these problems now.
I'm Caroline Condreel and I'm the director of the library here in Sylvan. When I moved to Sylvan a couple of years ago, I was coming from a small town of 800 and the urgent care center was right next door to my house. Well, after moving to Sylvan, I was working on my house one day, chipping tile away from a fireplace when the chisel slipped and I sliced my thumb open. Didn't know where the urgent care center was, so I called the library. And they told me that I either had to drive out to Rimbey or to Red Deer. So I sat for over an hour with my hand above my head, tightly wrapped up, just trying to get the bleeding to stop. The thumb has healed rather oddly. It took well over a year before the sensation was back into it again, and I'm left with a scar.
I'm Brad Baylor. I'm a family physician here in Sylvan Lake. When I think about urgent care, I think about appropriate access to after-hour services for the citizens of our town. If we could provide those services, we could probably do a better job with higher patient satisfaction, better outcomes, at a better cost to Alberta as well.
But on a more personal level, I'm a grandma and I have 2 grandchildren and I live at the lake. And when I'm entrusted with the care of those children, and if they would get an unexpected illness or injury, my only option would be to go to the nearest emergency room and wait and wait and wait. And for me, that's completely unacceptable.
Sylvan Lake should have a hospital. If we at least had urgent care in Sylvan Lake available for emergencies, my children and myself, among others, would not have gone and continue to go through such a horrific memory.
Thinking of a specific situation is really tough when we talk about what urgent care would mean. I think the most at-risk population in our community is the frail elderly, specifically those that live in our long-term care facility or lodge. They often spend many hours waiting for care in the Red Deer Emergency Department. By the time they get care, they're more confused. They end up disconnected from their community and admitted to the hospital in Red Deer. When if we had appropriate services here, we could have dealt with them locally and had them home safe by the end of the day. That's probably the most important thing.
So the case for our family, thankfully, have been minor. They've been issues where we need to see a doctor after hours. And I know that many other people in our community have had more severe, more dire cases. And it just really speaks to the need of enhanced medical services in Sylvan Lake. Right now, if you were to face a non-life-threatening injury after hours, you would have to sit in the Red Deer emergency room for 4 or more hours, depending on how busy they are, to be served by a doctor. And we know that they are served more economically and quicker close to home, and that's the solution that we're trying to find in Sylvan Lake.
The town needs it. It's needed it for years. And with the doctors now starting to pull back on their on-call, we're going to be in even more difficulties.
Citizens do the best when they're able to stay in their own community and get care close to home.
My message to the Alberta government and the Alberta Health Services Board is that with an area population of over 22,000 and over 750,000 visitors in the summer alone, our healthcare needs are severely undermet with only doctors' offices in our community. We have real needs for medical services after hours and on weekends, and we're looking for the government's help with meeting those needs.